I would also like to thank our 3 Springfield Technical Community College students who volunteered helping all the exhibitors set up. Where are those students? Please stand. There you are. Nice job. Excellent job. And for the 5th straight year, my friend, Dr. Eileen Sear, she's a good friend and a professor at Springfield College, has volunteered her time to help with what we call the troubleshooting table, and I know that she helped a lot of you out today. So I want to thank her for after 5 years of donating and volunteering during her time, so thank you very much, Eileen. We are so lucky to have a local, super successful entrepreneur for our keynote speaker tonight. And I would like to ask Diane Doherty to come to the stage to introduce tonight's keynote speaker. Diane is the director of the Western Massachusetts Regional Office for the Small Business Development Center. She has been an active member of Grinspoon Entrepreneurship Initiative since the beginning. Diane?
Great to see so many faces, familiar and new, out here. This is really a privilege. And before I start introducing Delcie, I would just like to say a resounding thank you to Carrie, who has done a fabulous job on this. And also a resounding thank you to Harold and Diane for doing this, bringing 14 schools to collaborate around entrepreneurship. This is such a great thing for the Valley. So thank you, Harold, thank you, Diane, and thank you all for helping us to celebrate this. Delcie Bean, founder and CEO of Paragus Strategic IT, is a born entrepreneur, as you will hear shortly. Having started his first company at the age of 8 and a nonprofit at the age of 13, he thrives on coming up with ideas, building businesses, and having a lot of fun in the process. And fun is part of it. Delcie's mission is to use business and technological innovation as a positive force to impact the lives of clients, employees, colleagues, and the community as a whole. Delcie has come a long way since founding Vertical Horizons as a sophomore at Amherst Regional High School. That company has evolved into Paragus Strategic IT, which currently employs more than 35 people, with new staff being added every 6 to 8 weeks. According to Inc. magazine, Paragus is the 1,532nd fastest growing company in America, and the 2nd fastest growing IT company in New England. Pretty impressive. In 2013, CRN Global ranked Paragus the 30th fastest growing IT company in the United States, and the Greater Springfield Chamber of Commerce named Paragus the 2nd fastest growing company in Hampshire and Hampden County. Very commendable. Paragus provides outsourced IT solutions for businesses and organizations. It's a fun, growing company whose employees are committed to delivering exceptional customer experience and enhancing the role of IT through strategic, proactive, and cost-effective solutions. In addition to Paragus, Delcie is a founder and CEO of Waterdog Technologies, a technology distribution company with an innovative and disruptive business model. Waterdog is turning IT distribution on its head by making the profitability and success of its managed service providers its primary objective. Most recently, Delcie is channeling his passion and creativity with Tech Foundry. How many of you have heard of Tech Foundry? Well, pay attention. And when you go home tonight, go on to Facebook and watch his newest video, which is very impressive and is going to really tell you a lot more that you're going to hear shortly from him. But Tech Foundry is a nonprofit that he started this past year, by building a dynamic technology institute that will allow local high school students to learn the skills needed to get high-paid tech jobs in the Valley. Tech Foundry aims to turn Western Mass into a technology capital. This is really awesome. He's addressing his own skills gap in his company, but he's doing it for the benefit of the whole region, and he is not the only one who cannot hire these well-trained IT people. Working with a diverse population of high school kids, Tech Foundry seeks to solve the shortage of computer science professionals in the region in a manner that will allow the curriculum to respond to market demand in close to real time. From creating jobs to attracting big businesses to the area, Tech Foundry is poised to have a massive long-term impact on the future of the region. Currently, Delcie is, I know it sounds not so young to most of you, but to me it is very young. At 28 years old, Delcie is truly a serial entrepreneur, and he has done so much for this valley already. This is his official bio, but I decided I needed a little bit more, so I called his darling wife and said, give me the inside story. And I'm sorry she can't be here tonight, but she did give me some ammunition. I said, so what's Delcie really like? And she said, well, he's not only a risk taker and a gambler in business, but he's also the same in his private life and in his personal life. So she said, I never give him a gift of material things. I always give him experiences. Here are some of the experiences she has given him. Skydiving, race car driving, driving a Lamborghini in Mexico. That must not have been too bad, Delcie. Cliff diving in Jamaica. And to top it all off, he has an upcoming bobsledding trip scheduled for this winter. He learned this all by fixing go-karts and racing them as a kid in Amherst. I'm told he had a lemonade stand at a very early age. I'm glad that Delcie's parents are here. Is that true that he had a lemonade stand very young? All right. Just wanted to make sure that we got all the facts. So that's who Delcie is. We are so fortunate to have him in the Valley. Come on up here, Delcie. Tell your story, the serial entrepreneur supreme.
So first of all, I want to thank all of you. I have a disease. I have a disease called optimism. And optimism is infectious. And so when I'm around people like you, my energy level gets up, my passion gets up, and I get even more excited about the work that I do and the work that I can do and the work that I'm excited about doing in the future. So for all of you who like free advice, I highly encourage you to continue to get out there and go to conferences and go to events and go to all these types of things, because what it does is it gets your excitement level up. And you get reinvigorated to go to work the next day, and you can't wait to get out of bed the next morning. That's the life you want to lead. And what I want to talk to you about tonight is a passion that I've developed recently around defining your success. So I'm going to get into this a little bit more in a minute, but in Western culture, we often accept a very traditional definition of success. It's money, it's power, it's influence, it's title. And those things are valuable to some people, and they have a lot of purpose and meaning in this world, but they're not what everybody is driven by. And the more that you can get in touch with what you personally are driven by, the more successful a life you're going to lead, the more excited you're going to be to get out of bed every morning, and the happier you're going to be when you look back and reflect on the life you've led and the legacy you've left behind. So I'll tell you a little bit about my story. Diane got all the facts right. So I started companies when I was young. Let me tell you a quick side. So I went to a Keynote. I go to a lot of conferences, as I said. I'm not a hypocrite. And I heard Gary Hirschfield speak, who's the founder of Stonyfield. He gave the most awe-inspiring speech I've ever heard, and I will not live up to it, so don't raise your bar too high. But what he did was he said at the beginning of his speech, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. And then he did, and he lived that for the rest of his speech. And he told about the 4 biggest mistakes he made in his professional career. And these were embarrassing moments, and he got teary-eyed on stage. Hopefully I won't. But it was very impressive to see somebody that powerful and somebody that successful be so open and honest. So that's what I want to try to do tonight. I want to tell you my story, but I want to tell it to you with honesty and truth and explain to you how I got to where I am and where I think I'm going. So I started at a young age, and my passion was on creation. I wanted to understand how things work, and I wanted to make them better. The second I could get my hands on a screwdriver, which I was probably 3 or 4 years old, I took apart everything in our house. My parents would come home, and the VCR would be in pieces, and the radio would be in pieces. I loved to just understand how things work together. And I took that passion and I moved it to business. So I wanted to understand how business worked and organizations worked. I wanted to understand how people worked. I wanted to understand how society worked, how money worked, how capitalism worked. And so I started businesses. And I used to sell, I don't know who knows in this room, something called creepy crawlies. Those little things you made like in the Easy Bake Oven, and they were like plastic. I used to sell those in the school bus for 10 cents. I sold a lot of them. Then I went on to a snow cone stand, which started out selling lemonade, and then we started selling snow cones, then we started selling slushies, and we started selling cookies. We had a whole like 9-foot table. We had a menu. We actually had a line every now and then. We were on a highway, so we got a lot of traffic. And so I got to the point that I went to the town and said, am I big enough that I need a business license? And they said, yeah, technically your revenue says you do. So we got, I've always just been passionate about creating things and watching them build and grow and expand. So my first major endeavor was a nonprofit called Steps Towards Walls. And I could tell you a story about a deep passion for community and a need to give back. And that's why I started Towards Walls. But the truth is, I was excited to start a business. I was excited to be part of an organization and to see something happen and to see something get built up and change. And so I started a nonprofit just because that was the thing that was most approachable and obtainable to me at the time. And that nonprofit organized a climb-a-thon to climb Mount Monadnock. We raised $50,000. We built a battered women's and children's shelter. And all of that was great, and that was a phenomenal outcome to the endeavor, but the endeavor was driven by my need and my passion to create and to build and to grow. And so that's where that organization came from. I then was moved to Amherst. I went to Amherst High School. I struggled at Amherst High School. I won't lie about that either. So I was what they would probably call a troublemaker. Amherst is very good at serving a lot of types of people, probably better than most schools. I was not one of the types of people that they were equipped to handle. And so my freshman year, I was learning about computers. I'd always had a passion for computers. And I constructed this little program that was very simple that would test the limits of their email system. And I had no idea what I was doing or what I was about to do. But I hit a button on Friday around 4 o'clock, went home, got in the school bus, came in on Monday, and our computers were down, and there was no computers in the school system. And it took them a couple days to figure out who did it, and they did. And then the story is that they apparently had to fly somebody in from Ohio to unravel the mess that I made and fix it. So I took computer drawing, I took CAD, without access to a computer, because I lost my computer privileges for 18 months. So I took computer-assisted drawing on paper. I then went on to take half of a C++ programming course on paper because I still didn't have my privileges back. Actually, my teacher is right over there. So Aaron St. John had to put up with me as well. So we could all give him a round of applause right there. So the passion and drive to create and to invent led me to a couple other missteps. Our school system, we had a very innovative superintendent who turned out to not be such a great guy, but he had this idea to create this docket system, which was based on student empowerment. And it was this system where he'd give you 10 passes, and you could show up late to class as much as 10 minutes, walk in the door, hand the teacher a pass, and she couldn't say anything to you. So 10 times you could arrive 10 minutes late to class, no questions asked. Unfortunately, the quality of paper he used and the design was not all that innovative. And so we had a very lucrative business creating additional dockets that were sold on a black market. And I tell you this, in honesty, because it was, again, what drove me. What drove me was the business, was the marketing strategy. We had a very guerrilla marketing strategy, obviously, and it had to be word of mouth, but we also had to keep it quiet. And it was very interesting for me to study and learn the business dynamics of doing that. And again, not because I wanted to be a bad kid or do something wrong, but because I wanted to explore and I wanted to learn. I also went on to create fake parking passes, and I made fake IDs, and I did all those things, but very successful businesses. So I even filed taxes on that money. So then what happened was my junior year, I was excited about computers. And I want to tell this story to all the entrepreneurs in the room, because I go to a lot of these types of conferences and events, and I meet young entrepreneurs, and I meet kids who aren't entrepreneurial, and I ask them, do you want to start a business? And I go, yeah. And I go, why don't you? Well, it's so hard, and you have to have so much money, and you have to know all this stuff. No, so far from the truth. And I'm living proof of that. So I started my first company interested in computers. I knew nothing about computers. And I had the audacity, because of that optimism disease that I have, to print a bunch of flyers telling people that I knew what I was doing and that I could fix their computer. And I put them in everybody's mailboxes. And the good news is they didn't know anything about computers either, because that's why they were hauling me. So all I had to do was be a little bit smarter than them and learn faster than they did. And I did that, and it worked. And I learned a ton, and I learned it really quickly, because you have the pressure of the client standing over you being like, does this kid know what he's doing? That doesn't look right. But eventually I got there. And so I just handed out flyers. I charged $10 an hour. I put them in my neighbors' mailboxes. My neighbors, once I started getting better, started telling their friends and family about it. I started getting calls from all kinds of people I never met. And the irony was I didn't have a driver's license, so the call would go something like this, hey, I heard you can fix computers. I said, yeah, absolutely. How's 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon? That's great. One small caveat, you got to come pick me up. This is my address, and bring me to your house. I'll fix your computer, and then bring me back. It's kind of like a babysitter. And I got paid in cookies and apple pies. I worked for everybody's grandmother. Because again, all I had to be was smarter than their grandmother, and I was that. So that worked very well. And slowly, I started to know more and more people. And I got smarter and I got better at it, because I learned fast, and I was able to just go out there and take the risk. And that worked out to the point that I actually decided to open up a retail storefront. I had so much business, and one of my obsessions, and I will say obsessions borderline OCD, is efficiency. I cannot handle things not being as efficient as humanly possible. And so because of that, I realized I could fix a lot more computers if people brought them to me, and I had a storefront rather than going to everybody's place of business or a home. So we opened up a retail office in South Amherst, and we encouraged people to bring us their computers, and we had the weirdest business hours in the world. We were open from 3 p.m. until 11 p.m. because we were in school. So we'd get out of school, go over there, fix the computers, go home, kind of do homework, go to bed. I mentioned I wasn't that good a student. And then we would do it all over again the next day. It actually got to the point that I would spend my lunchtime at school doing my homework from the night before, because I had been working all night, and that actually caused me to lose the ability to eat lunch. So to this day, I can't eat lunch because I worked through lunch, and so my body actually adapted to not needing lunch, and I can't reverse that. But it worked out great because it made me more efficient. So I didn't have one less half-an-hour break that the rest of you guys have to take. Keeps me on top of my game. So that business continued to grow and thrive. We actually, a client, a commercial company above our office came downstairs one day and says, so you guys fix computers? And I go, yeah, we do that. And we need help with our IT. We said, okay, yeah, we can definitely do that. We had no idea what we were doing. And they said, you guys work on servers? Yes, of course we work on servers. Never seen a server. And all I had to do was learn faster than them. So we took that client on, and they hired us to do this project where we were going to replace every computer in the entire company, install 2 brand new servers, set up an email system, and wire a floor of an office building. And we told them, and they laughed, and we told them we can do it in a weekend. That, yeah, just leave Friday night, give us the keys, you'll come back Monday morning, good as gold. And so we took our word very seriously, and we were there 72 hours straight. We didn't sleep, we didn't eat, we just worked and we worked and we worked, and we had no idea what we were doing. And if you don't know anything about IT, probably most of you, but if for anybody that does, I'll geek out for 1 second. When you have a computer and you're going to join it to something called a domain, there's a really easy way to do that. You right-click and you say, I want to join a domain, and you tell which domain you're going to do. We didn't know that. So The only time I'd ever seen the question, do you want to join a domain, is when you're installing the Windows operating system from scratch. So we erased every single computer to get to that question where it would ask us if we wanted to do a domain, because we knew we wanted to join a domain. So we made a project that was already monumentally complicated, even more complicated. But we got through it, and we learned a lot. I can't imagine, I couldn't quantify how much we learned that weekend and how much different we were at the end of the weekend. It was so transformative. The client was happy. They paid us well. And by paid us well, I mean like $5,000 for 72 hours of work. So that's not well. But we didn't know how to quote, so that was our fault, not theirs. They were generous people. But that means that we can now service businesses, because we did it once, so that means we are good. So we immediately took out flyers, took out ads, we went everybody, guys, we are the best IT company in the Valley at fixing business computers. And we signed a lot of clients. Clients trusted us, clients believed in us. I think clients could see the passion that I had to grow the business, and they could see the passion I had to do great things, and they bought into that. And some of those clients are still with me today, and I'm incredibly grateful to them. Literally the businesses that hired me as a sophomore in high school to run their IT, hats off to them. They're still phenomenal clients. Alden Associates, probably anybody's ever aware of them. They're one of my very first clients. They're still around with us today. So that business grew and it grew. And then I hit this critical junction that some of you have probably hit, where you have to think about, am I going to go to college? And my companies were doing very well. My company was doing very well. And I wasn't doing well enough in high school to go to the colleges that I dreamed about going to. So instead of going to college, I made a very conscious decision. And I said, I'm not going to go to college right now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend the next 4 years treating my business like a college. I'm going to take every risk imaginable. I'm going to do things that you shouldn't do just because I'm going to learn, so that at the end of the 4 years, I would feel like I had a college education without going to college. And so that was the route that I took. And I say that not because that's the route for everybody. It isn't the route for most people. But it was the route that I took, and I come back to my point earlier. You have to define what success is for you. For me, success was freedom from bureaucracy and freedom from people telling you what to do, and freedom to make whatever decision you want, take whatever risk you want. And for me, that was the right decision. And it's all about being in touch with what is right for you and what motivates you and what excites you. I'll go back to that, what gets you out of bed in the morning every day. So that was what did it for me. And I grew that company to what was then called Vertical Horizons, not the band. Then it became Valley Computer Works. Valley Computer Works thrived in the Valley for many years. And then we took a bold move and we renamed it Paragus. We did our branding all over. We had a ton of fun with it. And we became Paragus Strategic IT, which Diane said all the wonderful things about, and it is very true. I can take only a small amount of responsibility for that company, though, because what my passion is developed into, is finding great people and then teaching them how to use their talents to do great things, and then working with them and mentoring them into realizing their full potential. And that is what Paragus is. We don't hire IT people. We hire music majors and mathematicians. We hire linguistics majors, people from all walks of life. And we empower them and teach them how to realize their full potential. And IT is just the tool we happen to use to do it. It's not the important part. The important part is tapping into their true potential. And that's what we've done at Paragus. And so I'm very pleased to say that I have very little to do with what happens at Paragus these days. It's the team, it's the staff, they're dedicated, they're passionate, they love their job. To the point that I actually decided that I'm going to sell the company to them, because I no longer feel like it's my company anymore, it's their company. I appreciate that. Hopefully my attorneys who told me not to do that aren't in the room. So what happened at that point was I started to get to Paragus to a point that was mature, and I started to think about what else did I want to do with my life? What drove me? What got me excited? And it was this creation. And so I went on a serial spree of starting companies. She mentioned Waterdog. I have a company called U-Commission, which is in its early infancy stages right now. I have 3 nonprofits, Valley Technology Outreach, Tech Foundry, and my brand new project that nobody knows about called the Springfield Innovation Center, which is going to be a hub, a cafe right downtown Springfield for all of you guys who have energy and passion and excitement to hang out, so that we can continue to infect each other with our optimism and we continue to do great things and rebuild this valley. If any of you are on the fence about where you're going to put your business, whether you're going to stay in the valley, whether you're going to go to Boston, you're going to go to New York, go back to what I said earlier. What motivates you? What What gets you excited? What gets you out of bed in the morning? Define what that success is for you. Because don't just think that you're going to follow the path that everybody else has followed. Just because other tech companies went to Boston, just because other startups went to New York, doesn't mean you have to. I'm living proof that you can break every mold there is and still be successful despite what you're supposed to do. So I highly encourage you to think about this valley and to think about the future of this valley and what this valley can become. I have become absolutely just impassioned with this valley and what it can do, and especially Springfield as the heart of that, and Holyoke as a neighbor, and the rest of the trickle down to the other areas. And I think that there's a huge, very prosperous future ahead. Tech Foundry is going to play a big role in that. The Innovation Cafe is going to play a big role in that. And all of our businesses can thrive and support this area. And that's what gets me up every morning. That's what gets me excited. That's what gets me willing to do all the ridiculous things that I do and join all the committees and all the groups, because I love seeing change. And as long as you have the motto of GSD, I think I can say, get shit done, then it's going to be okay. You got to take the risks. You got to be optimistic. You got to be willing to get out there and do something about it. You can't sit in the sidelines and complain. And if you want to know more about Paragus' story, my story, something called the Family of Businesses, which I don't have time to talk about tonight, but it's very exciting, you can go to Facebook's, Paragus' Facebook page, which is just Facebook Paragus IT. And we just, about 45 minutes ago, posted a video that we produced that talks about the family of businesses and the creation of opportunity as our mission statement for growth. So our focus is you grow by creating opportunity. Opportunity for your clients, opportunity for your staff, opportunity for your region, for your community. And that's our mission statement, is to create opportunity. And if you want to learn more about how we're doing that and what our plans are, you can watch that video. And I guess what I'm supposed to do is take questions. So if anybody has questions, just going to put your hand up and I'll try to call on you.
Questions?
Yeah, Harold.
I always like to hear about your biggest failure.
So my biggest failure, I am not Harold. I cannot invest in real estate successfully. Tried and true, cannot do it. Tried, I started a company called Delcie Bean with my father. We invested in several properties. He was there by name only, and I was the guy making the bad decisions. We invested in a lot of properties between 2005 and 2008, and then we sold them between 2008 and 2011. Anybody who can do even basic math knows that's not a good strategy. So one of my biggest failures was a Delcie Bean, but it's only a failure if you didn't learn anything. And so I preface it by saying it was a failure economically. It was not a failure from an education standpoint. I learned all the things I'm great at. I got to work with my hands. I did a lot of the renovations myself. So I taught myself carpentry. I taught myself plumbing. I taught myself electrical. I got electrocuted 3 times, very badly. But I learned a lot, and I enjoyed it. And every experience you go through shapes and molds your life. And so there's no opportunity that's worth shying away from if it fits into your passion. If it fits that description of what I want to do with my life, then do it, and don't worry about everything else. So the question he asked is, if you knew you weren't going to fail, what would you do? And how I would answer that if I had that privilege. The problem is that's exactly the disease I have, is I think I can't fail, and so everything I've done has been that. And it's honestly like I've had to surround myself with people who are very practical, who think very pragmatically, because they have to remind me that failure is an option and failure may happen, because I have such a hard time seeing failure. When I encounter something that goes wrong, that's just an opportunity to pivot and to change the circumstances and to go in a different direction. But I don't see myself as somebody who is ever afraid of failure, probably to a point that it's unhealthy. And I'm not advocating that you should get to that point. But I'm saying it in the sense that it's also okay to once in a while realize that failure is a natural part of learning. And in so many industries, I mean, you look at science, experiments are failures. I mean, it's calculated failures over and over and over again by the thousands, by the millions, until they find an end result. I don't know why the rest of us don't embrace that the way that other communities and other professions do. Failure is just part of the evolutionary path, and I encourage you to fail. I encourage my staff to fail. One of our values at our company is fail often, because the more you fail, the more you're going to learn, and you learn so much more when you fail than when you succeed. If you succeed, you don't really know why. When you fail, you know what you did wrong, and it's very obvious, and you can learn from that and move on from that. Paul.
Yeah, you're in trouble. So, learning from failure. One of the great challenges, particularly if you're trying to inculcate it in your staff or your students, is that there's tremendous emotional baggage from failing. And we can tell someone it's okay to fail, but we also don't want to hire employees that all they do is fail. So how do you find a way to communicate that so that they understand the right balance?
So we have 12 values at our company. Value number 11 is admit to and learn from your mistakes. And the way that manifests itself at Paragus is if you make a mistake, absolutely nobody's going to come down hard on you. Nobody's going to give you a hard time. Nobody's going to judge you or critique you. Certainly not going to get yelled at. But what you are going to do is you're going to go into a room and you're going to sit down with a mentor, and it could be your boss, it could be somebody else, and you're going to start to talk about what happened. And you're going to work backwards to figure out what contributed to that error that occurred, and what did we learn? How do we move past this? And then what we do is we create a plan for success. And a plan for success is some system or process that you're going to implement that will guarantee, to the reasonable extent possible, that that particular mistake won't reoccur. So that as long as you're not making the same mistake over and over again, it's totally fine. And we learn a lot from that. And then what we do is we present those moments to the rest of the staff. Because if we have an opportunity to learn from the one guy's mistake and we don't all have to make that same mistake, that's helpful. Nobody else needs to reformat a computer to join a domain. I've told my staff that's not necessary. There's a right-click option. It's much faster. So that's not a mistake worth repeating. But some mistakes do need to be learned by everybody. And sometimes you have to let people fail even when you know they're going to. And intervening and trying to stop them isn't always the right path. So we have to walk that balance. And it's one that we've learned to do, I think, pretty well. Yeah.
How do you find balance between your life and work and energy?
I honestly do not. I do. I mean, my energy comes from you guys. My energy comes from getting around people who are passionate and excited. Watching that pitch contest, it was like if I had an energy gas tank, it was just going straight to full. I got so excited watching that, and that's what gets me going. And then I can sustain that until I have to go to another conference, another event, and I get reinvigorated, get re-excited. I go to Valley Venture Mentors. That's like a monthly dose of excitement. So there's that opportunity. There's River Valley Investors. That's another monthly dose of it. So I get myself involved with things that are going to get me passionate and excited. In terms of work-life balance, I have taught myself, and it wasn't easy, and it didn't happen right away, to completely shut off from work mode when I walk into my door. So as I cross my threshold, I turn off my phone, and I'm home. And I'm home until I get back to work the next morning, and I'm home all weekend. I refuse to work on the weekends and at nights. And I can't say that was like that when I started. You have to do that in the early days. But I got to a place now where I have a very clear delineation between when I'm at home up in my house in New Hampshire, I'm at home. And when I'm here at work, I'm here at work. And I'm excited and I'm passionate and running around. And when I'm at home, I'm quiet and I'm reserved. If you can believe that. Yes, sir.
I just, as far as the whole balance between going to college or not going to college, and the idea of the value, most of the people here have come from the experience of going to college. And what would you say about that?
Yeah, so talk about a hypocrite. I'm going to talk about going to college, the guy who didn't go to college. But it is a fair question. So he was asking, how do you value the college age experience and how does that fit in for certain people? And so as an outsider, not being able to comment from the inside, what it looks like to me is it's back to that conversation around defining your success. If you know that you are born to be a doctor, you are born to help people, college is part of that process, and it's a necessary part of that process. If you don't know what you want to do yet, but you have a university that you have a great love for and it's really exciting and it gets you out of bed to think about going there, then you should go there and you should be there. It's about figuring out in your life where college fits in or maybe doesn't fit in or maybe doesn't fit in right now. So Tech Foundry's model is go to high school, join Tech Foundry, find a rewarding, exciting career, and then go to college slowly part-time while you're employed. That's another model. And there is no right model. There's no wrong model. There's people who should be in college the day they graduate high school. There's people that should go to college when they're 50. And there's people who maybe college isn't right for them ever in their lives. But it's about knowing yourself and not allowing the Western definition of success to define you, but rather your own definition of success. Because when you lay on that deathbed and you think back on your life and your legacy, you don't want to be thinking about all the money you made. You want to be thinking about the impact you had, the good you did, the lives you changed. And that's what motivates me and excites me. And I think that that's within all of us. And you got to get in touch with that and figure out what that means to you. And then if colleges fits in, then that's terrific. And that's the pathway and that's the gateway to getting that done. Sure.
Tell me about who you hired, what you were looking for, what kind of qualities, how diverse they are, and with that, did you have a great hire and did you have a really poor hire?
I have made so many bad hires. And my least favorite thing in the world is firing somebody. So that has taught me to make better hires. I have lots of teams. So I have the teams that run my companies. I have the teams that run my nonprofits. I have the teams that support me. I have the advisors that I work with. And when I'm looking for those teams and building those teams, the skills I'm looking for, if I had to simplify it to one word, it's passion. It's people who have a passion and know what that passion is and express that passion on a daily basis, and you can see it within them. You know that they're passionate people. In terms of the specific ways I've outlined it, you always hear that about hiring people who are smarter than you. I've tried my best to do that. You try to hear, don't hire people that are like you, hire people that are different than you. I've definitely tried my best to do that. Those are both great pieces of advice. The other piece of advice that I've learned to adapt is hire slowly and fire quickly. And what that means to us in our companies is that culture literally defines our companies. Our employees stay with us because of our culture. We recruit because of our culture. Paragus is one of the greatest, most fun places to work, and we have visitors who come and visit us and they wonder if we even actually do any work because it looks like they're having so much fun all the time. And so because of that, you have to make sure that when you're hiring, that those hires are going to fit that culture. Because if they do, they'll enhance it. And if they don't, they'll destroy it. And they'll destroy it quickly. It's so infectious to have a bad person in an organization. So what we look for are people who buy into our culture, who share our passion, our excitement. We have 12 values. Our values are very, very well defined. They're ingrained in everything that we do. And when we interview, we're screening people against that list of values. Are you passionate about helping people? Are you passionate about succeeding together? If you have those values within you, you're going to work. I don't care if you've never touched technology. That's not a problem. What we want to know is, are you going to live our culture? And if you are, we'll make it work. For some of my other companies, I look for people who have a certain amount of ambition that I can feel confident letting them lead my company. So with Waterdog in particular, I've taken a very back seat to that company since the day it was founded and put in place an amazing person who I found on my own and gave her the reins and just said, look, I trust you. I know this is within you. I know you can do this. I'm here for your support, but just go with it. And she's done phenomenal things with that company. So when it comes to hiring, it's about finding people who are going to share in your vision for the future and your vision for your company and your vision for life, and then working with them to build a great company, a great nonprofit, a great for-profit, something in between around the social economic side, whatever you want to do.
Thank you very much. Let's give Delcie a really wonderful round of applause. That was excellent.